Artefactors Union. Today we are doing the Malifaux 1988 Nightmare box. This is the Feng core box, but cyberpunk, and we are going to start with the Feng proxy herself, Gumdrop. This is our artwork, and this is our lovely render. Here's our sprue, and thankfully all the bits are labeled. This will make things a little bit easier, but yeah, it's a Nightmare box, so it's going to be slightly more difficult than normal Malifaux stuff, and it's got some pretty tiny things like this hand up here. We're going to start from the top down this time, so I'm actually assembling the head first. This is F11 and F14. The hairstyle is, well, very cyberpunky, but not the most intuitive as far as like putting the two pieces together, so just use my example here or look at the render. The body, F1, and add the head. The connection point is a little wobbly, but there is a ridge so that it can fit on there solidly. You just gotta let it cure. F7 and F10 combined to make the right arm. The connection point is pretty solid, it's just small, so again, make sure it's cured. And then add the right arm to the body. Next is F8, the left arm. Just add it to the body first so you don't have to worry about two tiny pieces with it in the hand. The connection is a little wonky. Just rotate it until there's no gaps. Should be fine. Very carefully cut out F9 and trim it. And then add it to the wrist. Use this as a reference for the position. I'm pretty sure I got it in the right place, but it's not going to matter a whole ton. So legs are hard to distinguish between right and left and which foot bit goes with which foot, but if you look at the connection points, one of these holes is slightly slanted, so that's how you can match them up. F3 is the left leg, F5 is the right leg. F3 has this tiny little hole up here, and F5 has this tiny little peg that will go in that hole. F3 and F4. The actual side is connected. Add as the left leg, don't let it cure because you might need to fiddle with it. F5 and F6. Jam the leg on the stump and connect it to the other leg with that hole we talked about. View from the other side. Combine F12 and F13. It's sort of a weird connection, but just look for the points. And just glue it to the top of Gumdrop's butt. F2 is here, and you can see where the wheels of her roller skate go on the bit. And Gumdrop is done. Just really tiny pieces is the big issue. Also, if you notice that she's actually kind of connected to the rail, I'm not sure if there's an actual connection point, but it's another place to glue her so she's less wobbly on those roller skates. But gorgeous model. Have fun putting her together. Artefactors Union Malifaux 1988 Nightmare Edition box. Feng's core box. We are doing the totem, Spritz, which counts as the Forgeling. This is the art of the camera focus. And here we have the render. This one's tough. Here's our sprue. And alright, we are going to go ahead and first build the pod, these guys, and then put the fish inside of the pod, close the pod up, do the paint bottles and the paint spray gun up here, and then lastly do the legs. G1 and G2 make a bucket. G3 goes in the back of the bucket. Combine G4 and G16 to make a fish. Make sure this little fork thing is on the top. Without the lid, the fish is only really going to be able to connect inside the bucket. That point, and then you can kind of see these tubes on the side. That'll connect. Now put your fish in the bucket. Okay, underside of the lid, you can kind of see where that fork on the fish goes in, as well as the little connection point from G3 attaches to it. And there's the lid. Alright, this is G6 is the piece. It will sit flat in the back, you just might need to wiggle it a bit. Alright, this is G5, and it's kind of hard to see, but our connection points are right there and right there. And those will correspond to right there and up there. Also, will be harder to see once I put the bottles on, so I'm going to mention that this groove right here is where the tube of the paint gun goes. This is what it looks like. I noticed you can also glue the tube right there to the pod to reinforce it. Combine G6 and G7 to make the paint gun. Friendly reminder, be very careful with these bits, they're just very thin. paint gun is attached, I recommend attaching it to the point that's behind the bit there and then using a knife to sort of force the tube into the right spot back there. G8 attaches the same as the bottles on the other side, connection point there, and you can see where the tube goes. Voila. After you do each pair of legs, set him on a flat surface to make sure he's level. G10. G13, make sure you use an X-Acto blade to push these into place. G11, there's a little tooth and socket that'll give you a bit of a guide. G14. G12. And G15. The legs should come to a point. Alright, Spritz is done. My best piece of advice for the legs is that once they are all attached, set them down on a flat surface and just make sure that he's relatively even. All the legs should fit on the floor. There's no set exact way of getting them that I can tell to exactly what weird ones, so just make it look good. And use a good set of tweezers to apply them. Artefactors Union, Malifaux 1988 Nightmare Edition box. We are going to be doing... I forgot his name. What is his name? Mean Streak. We're going to be doing Mean Streak up here. Here's our artwork. And here's a render. Mean Streak counts as Kang, who's the henchman in the box. Here's our sprue. It's probably the easiest model in the box. The only thing of concern is this part of the crowbar is going to be difficult to keep in there without it popping off or bending out of place. B1 is our beefy big boy. B3 is his thigh and knee. Oh boy. Okay, so this is B4, and this is going to be slightly tricky because there's not a lot to connect here, but this part I'm touching, it's going to go right in here, that little hole. And this is the front of the leg as you're seeing it. Glue and pray. I guess it'd be more cement, but here it is from the other side. B5 is our right foot. The connection point is also small, but there's only a really good way it will fit. Just set him down once you're done and see if he can stand up on it. And possibly need to realign the leg or the ankle if it doesn't quite look right.
See, he stand.
B8 is this big meaty dome. B6, right arm. Just goes right in there. B7 is the left arm and right hand, also go in pretty easy. Okay, for B2, you can kind of see the connection point right there. And just, yeah, pray that you can get it to go straight. Just reminder that it hooks back and it'll sort of be perpendicular. Look up what a crowbar looks like. Should be able to get the angle a bit more correct. And Mean Streak, done. Yeah, not too difficult, just making sure the knee attaches to the shin at the correct angle and the crowbar is just fiddly. Make sure it cures well before you play with it. Artefactors Union, Malifaux 1988, the Nightmare Edition box of the Feng core box. We are going to be doing tagline here, which is one of the rail workers. Rail workers being a generic minion, but in this case they all have names. And here is our render. Here's our sprue. More spindly legs. These ones actually have pretty solid connection points, though. Clip and clean E1. We're starting with the body like usual. E10 goes pretty easily into the crotch hole. E4 is the left leg here. Pretty solid connection point. E5 is the right leg. E8 is our head, and E7 is the cybernetics or hair or whatever on the back of the head. We want to jam those inside the collar before we put the backpack on. Put the backpack on. Our progress so far. Combine E3 and E2, and just plop that into the bottom of the backpack. If you were an impatient jerk, you might do that too fast before the connection cures and the bottom part falls off, and then you end up gluing the long piece to the backpack first and then trying to glue the bottom piece onto that and then part of it falling off. But I'm not that kind of person, so just a warning to anyone who is. Once you think you got it, set them down on their feet because the cables will be sitting on the base, and let them cure. E6 is our right arm and the last bit. Just be careful, the fingers are small and the flash in the elbow is a little difficult to get out, but just be patient, it should do fine. Tagline. He's done. Not too difficult, just really the cables gave me the most trouble. Yeah, I lied. I was the impatient one, and I kind of screwed that up. But it looks fine now, so you can't even tell that I did that. Gorgeous model, though. Looking forward to the next one. Artefactors Union Malifaux 1988 Nightmare Edition, the Feng core box, but it's cyberpunk. We are going to go with Mad Mop here. Out of order, I just saw that. And here is the render. Sprue. D1 is our body. D10 is the flap to the jacket. It goes right there. Like so. D9 is our next piece. It's some kind of speaker box or possibly a battery. It's going to go right on the butt like a fanny pack, and it's got some cables coming off of it. Those will go down this little ridge. There we go. D2 is our right foot. The easy way to distinguish between the right and left is the strappies go to the outside of the leg. D3, left foot. D4 is our right arm with the crowbar. Just be careful while trimming the crowbar because it's pretty thin, don't want to snap it. And a quick back view. Left arm in the left arm socket. This is D5. Alright, Mad Mop. Start with D6. Add D7 to it. Bet you can't tell where the face is going. Add the face. D8. Add the body. Quick note, the face doesn't actually connect to the neck stump at all. D6 and D7 sort of combine to create the connection point that ends up gluing to the body. Okay, now the cable on Mop's head will connect back here to the battery speaker thing. There is a notch on this box, hard to see, in the back corner, and that's where the cable sort of plug into. Mop is done. Relatively easy build. I'd say the hardest parts are probably making sure all 3 bits of the head get together and then gluing that cable in the back on the box. I had a little bit of trouble connecting the right arm as well. Does it just me or does it look like Mop is about to yeet that crowbar? That's not how you use a crowbar, dude. Artefactors Union Malifaux 1988 Nightmare Edition, the Feng core box, but cyberpunk. Last model is King Crybaby. There's our art. And there is our gorgeous render. Here's our sprue. I'm guessing our order is going to be torso, back, leg, arm, combine the bat, face, and hair. C2. Haha, almost immediately wrong. We're actually going to add C7 to the belt line first before we put the back on. Now add C1. C3, the right leg. C4, the right leg. Left leg. The connection point is slightly hard to determine, so here's a back shot so you can know definitely where it goes. Combine C6 and C8 to form the bat. Be careful with these just because if you're not cautious, you might bend the bat or the nails that are nailed into it. Yeah, just be careful while cleaning. Now glue it to the body. Combine C7 and C9 to create this glorious pompadour. And cement to the body. King Crybaby is done. Relatively simple assembly, and it's a gorgeous model. You can get so much of a personality out of just a pose. It doesn't have to be a super actiony one. And this guy is just oozing. Personality. The word is personality. I love him, and if you have this kit and you don't paint him like Kuwabara, we cannot be friends.